So, thank you very much again, Asec Lambino, for joining us. So, start muna tayo dun sa issue ng inflation. Kasi last year, nung nag-uusap tayo, inflation was a very hot issue, no? We reached almost 7%, 6.7% if I'm not mistaken.
That's right.
In the third quarter of 2018.
September, yes, was the peak. Yeah.
Pero ngayon, it's a very, very different picture, no? So, well within range tayo ng central bank's forecast. How did we achieve that? Almost halving yung ating inflation within less than a year.
Well, the most important thing, I guess, to keep in mind pagdating sa inflation ay ito po ay nakakaapekto talaga sa kakayanan ng isang household, no? Isang pamilya na bilhin ang mga bagay na kailangan niyang bilhin. Kaya nung nakita natin na tumaas yung inflation ng ganon, no? Umabot ng 6.7%, talagang tiningnan natin yung mga datos. We looked very closely at the data from the Philippine Statistics Authority. At nakita natin na yung pinakamalaking driver talaga ay pagkain. Food inflation was higher than non-food inflation. Rice yung pinakamalaki, isda, gulay at saka karne. No? Taken together with the other food items, more than half of inflation was explained by food. Kaya ang naging number one priority ng economic cluster, ng economic team. At yun din ang nirecommend nila kay Pangulong Duterte ay paramihin ang supply ng pagkain. Dahil pag tight ang supply, tumataas ang presyo. So pag pinarami mo ang supply, bababa ang presyo, di ba? Conversely. Kaya yung nangyari, there were a series of memorandum circulars and an administrative order signed by the President na padaliin ang pag-release ng food products from the ports, padaliin ang pag-import ng ibang mga products na may mga regulatory controls, at pinaka-importante, ipasa yung rice tarification bill at the time. Ngayon, law na, no? And the President signed that on
ano tong law na
February
to?
14.
Rice tarification law na to?
So, as I mentioned, when the supply is tight, prices are high. Nothing was higher than, in terms of contribution to inflation, at its peak, than rice. And rice is the staple of the Filipino people.
So medyo ipit tayo dun sa supply. No?
Oo, dahil ang NFA late nag-import at kulang ang in-import. So ang nangyari, naging kulang yung supply, hindi naman sa hindi makabili, pero hindi makabili ng mura. No, at ang nangyari dahil doon, maraming nagipit because low-income families spend around 20% of their budget on rice. No, so ang nangyari talaga ay nahirapan ang taong bayan. Kaya finast-track itong Rice Tarification Act or Rice Liberalization Act. Ang ginawa niyan ay pinalitan yung paraan ng pag-angkat ng bigas. Dati, meron tayong quota system, quantitative restriction. Ibig sabihin, yung may permit lamang ang pwedeng mag-import ng bigas. Ibig sabihin ay nangyayari ay mas mataas ang presyo sa Pilipinas kumpara sa ibang bansa. No? Mga karating bansa natin sa Asia. Correct. So, ang nangyari, doble halos ang presyo ng bigas sa Pilipinas kumpara sa Thailand at sa Vietnam. Mas mataas ang presyo ng bigas kaysa sa Singapore that does not even plant rice. No? Kaya nakita natin na malaking problema ito. Penalitan natin yung quantitative restriction, yung quota system sa isang tariff system. Ang ibig sabihin niyan, kahit sino pwedeng mag-angkat ng bigas,
pero magbayad
ng taripa, karampatang buwis.
Yes. Kasi mahalaga ito, Tony, no? Kasi sinasabi ng ibang tao, yes, binawa natin yung inflation, that's good for the consumers, pero baka marami naman ang magsasakan madi-displace doon sa mura na rice na bigas na pumasok from other countries. So ang sinasabi natin dito is, yung i-raise natin na funds doon sa mga tariffs at buwis, gagamitin natin yan para improve yung productivity at competitiveness ng domestic support producers natin.
Correct,
no? Yeah.
correct. And that's what we need to do as fast as possible. Kailangan napaka-efficient ng ating pag-implement nitong Rice Fund. At talagang fina-fast track naman yan ng ating mga agencies na involved dyan.
Tony, makano yung na-raise natin so far? Just to give an idea na kasi may nakita kaming mga news na tens of thousands of farmers ang apektado dito, no? Potentially. So, makano na-raise natin so far from the Rice Fund at ilan yung mga beneficiaries natin? Paano tayo pumipili ng beneficiaries? Is it general, any magsasaka sa Pilipinas, or specific people na feeling natin the most vulnerable sectors ng ating agricultural industry?
The targeting will be done by the agencies that are implementing the various components of the Rice Fund. No? So I'll defer to them to explain the targeting system. Pero mahalaga rin sa...
So kasamang Department of Agriculture dyan?
Of course.
Okay. So interagency parang ang effort nito.
Correct.
Okay.
At ang pinakamahalaga na kailangan din nating ibahagi ay ang maraming smallholder farmers ay net consumers. Which means, apektado rin sila pag mataas ang presyo. They are not able to produce supply for their families for the whole year.
Kasi input cost nila mataas din.
At saka meron din silang periods na kung kailan na hindi harvest season. No, wala silang naitabing harvest kasi nabenta or hindi kasing dami nung kailangan ng pamilya nila. Ay in the end bumibili rin sila sa market. So apektado sila pag mataas din ang price. So pati yung smallholder farmers na net consumers, nagbe-benefit sila on the consumption side pag mas mababa ang presyo sa ating mga markets.
Dahil partial consumers din yung ating producers.
Yes.
Asik Lambino, dito naman tayo sa issue ng economic growth. So lampas sa 6% yung average growth rate natin from around 2010-11 all the way to 2016 and 17. At of course, yung expectation ng Duterte administration is ma-maintain natin between 6 to 8% yung GDP growth rate natin. Pero medyo disappointing yata yung growth rate natin from on year basis, no, from first quarter of this year doon sa first quarter of last year. Bakit nagsuslow down ito? At do you expect na medyo mag-pick up ulit yung growth rate natin after yung election spending? Kasi generally, yun yung trend,
Generally,
diba?
yes. Ganun talaga yung nangyayari historically. Pag election season, ay mas maraming pera na umiikot sa system, gumagastos, daming pinaprint na tarps at mga posters, ganyan. No? So, makikita mo talaga sa manufacturing numbers, yung printing, malaki yung kick na pataas. That being said, the biggest factor that affected our first quarter GDP for 2019 is the reenacted budget that we had to implement in the first few months of 2019. In fact, ang estimate po natin...
Sinasabi mo yung medyo hindi nag-agree yung lower house and upper house na makapasa ng budget on time. So yung delay sa pagpasa ng budget has cost our GDP that much?
It cost us around 1 billion pesos of money we did not invest per day during the period na reenacted budget tayo.
So, 1 billion pesos of foregone opportunity for proper investment every single day.
Every day.
Dahil sa kapalpakan ng Kongreso to pass the budget on time.
Well, dahil delayed yung budget. Ngayon, dapat sana hindi maulit ito dahil
dahil mahalaga yun, no? As Lambino, kasi ito na naman, may away over the speakership of the Congress and all of that. So sana, dito after the midterm elections, sa darating ng Kongreso, maging responsable ng ating legislators, no? Because if there's any delay, ang laki ng cost na to sa ating GDP, no?
Yung estimate po natin dyan ay instead of 5.6, which actually is a respectable growth rate internationally, but it wasn't what we expected. We wanted a number above 6, and that's what we were expecting.
Because we were 6.5 last year quarter, right?
And had we been able to make the investments necessary, tuloy-tuloy yung galaw ng ekonomiya, no? Kaya ang nangyari, instead of growing at 6.6 to 7.2, which is the range of estimates that we have, we only grew at 5.6. Ngayon, over the 11 quarters of the Duterte administration na may numbers na tayo, we still did grow at 6.4 to 6.5% on average. And meron po tayong GDP growth catch-up plan for the rest of the year. Primarily on the shoulders of DPWH and DOTR. At
so infrastructure,
infrastructure. And ang sabi ni Secretary Villar at ni Secretary Tugade, mahirap gawin, pero they're up for the challenge daw. Kakayanin na mag-spend even more efficiently than they did last year.
So, nag-shift gear na tayo into the higher speed pagdating sa build, no? At nakita natin, nagsimula na yung mga big infrastructure project katulad ng subway, yung Japanese subway na gagawin sa Makati and I think BGC and of course yung North-South commuter highway. So finally, nakita natin within the second half of Pangulong Duterte, we'll have more and more infrastructure spending.
Well, it's a Filipino subway supported by Japanese ODA.
Yes.
Correct. And ADB, by the way.
Which brings me to
ADB is for the commuter rail. From Calamba, the Clark Malolos segment. But you know what? That's a very exciting project. It's Clark to Calamba.
C2C.
Yeah.
So ito yung industrial region natin. But the technology will be Japanese, no? Yung subway na yan, no?
Yung subway. The Metro Manila subway is Japanese
It's a Japanese technology.
That's correct.
So world-class ito, no? Let's be very clear about that. Which brings me, of course, to the next issue, no? So as Lambino earlier this year, lahat tayo, we had back and forth. Not directly, but in terms of our arguments, dito sa issue ng tinatawag na Chinese debt trap, na lulubog tayo sa utang at pag lumubog tayo sa utang, gagamitin ng China as a leverage to actually undermine our sovereignty. No? At nakausap ko rin si Prime Minister Mahathir. We interviewed him on this show back in March about this issue ng debt trap. And he warned na kailangan you're careful about yung ini-incur mo ng debt. But I think we both agree na yung ating fiscal health, ating sovereign credit rating, at kumpara sa Malaysia, the amount of Chinese money that's coming in is not as significant para mag-raise ng debt trap. But could you explain to our audience, ano tong debt trap at bakit hindi tayo dapat mag-alala na we will fall under Chinese debt trap?
Unang-unang kailangan ibahagi dyan ay walang collateral yung ating mga loan agreements.
So yung news na lumabas na may national patrimony assets na gawin...
That word is in the loan agreement but it's misinterpreted.
Could you
patrimony,
clarify?
okay.
Yeah, could you clarify that? I'm sorry.
Sige. So, unang-una, there's no collateral. Meaning, wala tayong ipinangako na makukuha kung hindi tayo magbayad or hindi tayo makabayad sa ating mga utang. Kailangan dalhin muna sa arbitration.
Pero sa China to.
For one loan agreement, it's Beijing. For another loan agreement, it's Hong Kong. But for our loan agreement with the French government under the Aquino administration, it's Paris. No, for
So
loan
it's a normal
agreements,
process na
It
the arbitration
varies.
bodies, or at least it's not unprecedented.
it's not unprecedented. It varies. No, it's a loan agreement by loan agreement basis.
So
no,
case-to-case
itong
basis
situation. And actually, there was a previous loan agreement from another administration na Beijing din for a Chinese loan to, I think under the Arroyo administration, to improve some of the aqueducts in our water system. No? So it's not unprecedented. That's the first. Second, first was no collateral. Second is
Hindi
the
siya
arbitration is not unprecedented. The fact that there is arbitration in the agreement is a standard or leads to the standard an understanding that the waiving of ang tinatawag na sovereign immunity, that waiving is standard across our loan agreements with various countries. So it's true with our loan agreements with Japan, with China, with France, and other countries. Why? Because according to the Philippine Supreme Court, agreeing to an arbitral proceeding, should the borrower not be able to pay or should refuse to pay, ay implicitly, ibig sabihin yan, we have waived our sovereign immunity. No? And sino ba naman ang magpapautang sa kahit kanino na walang habol, walang recourse kung hindi magbayad yung nangutang? Pwera na lang siguro kung kamag-anak o talagang kaibigan na willing ka nang ibigay yung pinautang mo.
So
no?
you're not concerned about the interest rates of China? Na sinasabi medyo mas mataas sa Japan. Or, I mean, it's within the commercial rate in fairness
No,
to China.
it's lower than
commercial, like 4%. It's lower than 4%. But they say it's way higher than the Japanese rate. Or...
That's not true also. Why? Because they are in different currencies. The Japanese rate of 0.1% is in Japanese yen. Ang 2% ng China ay nasa US dollars. Ngayon, kung i-convert mo yung Japanese yen into US dollars, it's actually around 2.7%. No? So, mas mataas dun sa 2%, but within the same ballpark and still much better than borrowing from the private capital markets. In fact, our bonds, diba, you're borrowing from private lenders. When you issue a bond, nasa above 3% yung interest rate niyan, diba?
Yeah.
So, it's the cheapest source of financing in terms of the various options that we have. Actually, kung i-compare talaga natin, apples to apples, everything in US dollars, I would say na based on the numbers I've seen, the Korean loans are a little lower than the Chinese loans. The Chinese loans are lower than the Japanese loans. But Korea was not an ODA partner for our infrastructure program. They're lending to us for other programs such as the digitization of our tax system.
More grants.
Merong grants, meron ding loans.
Let's go naman dun sa issue ng tax reform. So, medyo we got through the preliminary stages.
Sorry, before we move on, do you mind if I share
please,
another
go
thought?
ahead.
Ang debt trap issue, ibig sabihin niyan ay lubog tayo sa utang at hindi na natin mabayaran. We are being very prudent in the way we are borrowing for our projects. Una, yung mga projects, kailangan malaki yung pakinabang ng taong bayan. So we assess each project to make sure that the benefit that the people will derive from, whether it's a highway, a train system, a dam project for the water system, ay malaki ang pakinabang natin. Above 10% economic internal rate of return. And if you compare that to the cost of financing, ay mas malaki dapat talaga.
Pero ano itong ASEC Lambino, itong concern about Chinese labor being used? The Japanese, when they invest here, hindi sila nagdadala ng sarili nilang mga trabahador. Pero mukhang pag China, the engineers, the product, the management team, even the workers are Chinese. Is that a concern niya?
No, again, no, that's tied loans between two countries. Pag bilateral yung lending. Tied loans typically have that clause that the main contractor is from the country of the lender or of the lender country. That's typical. But we also made sure that in the various contracts that are put in place to implement the projects for the construction, for the actual implementation, ay meron tayong clause na nagsasabi only highly technical workers from the lender country, from the creditor country, should be working on these projects. For the larger number of laborers, dapat galing sa atin, dapat Pilipino. I think this issue is clouded by, let's say, the number of foreign nationals working in our cities under the POGO industry. Kasi araw-araw nakikita natin maraming foreign nationals.
Online casinos.
Oo, sa ating mga syudad. Kala natin ganun din sa mga infrastructure projects outside. Actually, we've checked. There are just several hundred or a few hundred. I don't have the exact numbers with me now. I can send that to you later.
Pero hindi ito yung datsaan
Pero
ng mga
hindi,
Chinese workers.
hindi tulad nung nakikita natin from the, let's say, the online offshore gaming industry. So I think na ko-confuse din yung issue because of that. And just also to share, we have, under the direction of Secretary Dominguez, gone very aggressively after the non-payment of personal income taxes dito sa POGO industry. At pumayag naman sila na mag-umpisa na magbayad. Moving forward, at hinahabol din natin yung mga back taxes na utang nila sa atin. That's around 2 billion pesos a month that they should be paying.
President Duterte called for the review of the contracts in the first quarter of this year in light of these concerns about, potential undermining for sovereignty because of Chinese loans. Why did the president call for a review if there's no problem with the contracts? And where is this review process going?
I guess the president heard many perspectives and in response to the criticisms that were leveled against these agreements, in order niya na i-review. I think, of course, we will follow what the president has ordered, but I believe it is a different agency that was tasked to
Not
do
the
so.
DOF.
Not the DOF.
The other question I had, ASEC Lambino, is actually bago pumunta dito si Pangulong Xi Jinping last November, si former Secretary of Budget natin and Central Banker Governor ngayon, si Secretary Jokno, sabi niya may concern dun sa pagbagal nung facilitate ng Chinese infrastructure projects. Ang nakita natin so far, mukhang the Japanese are a little bit ahead of the curve, although yung MOUs pa nila was signed long time ago, including 2015 dun sa underground metro. Bakit parang medyo mabagal? Maybe we don't know about it. Pero ang basa natin from outside is mabagal ang pag-process ng Chinese infrastructure projects. And I heard that some Chinese are saying now, problema ay actually sa Pilipinas, yung bureaucracia natin ay mabagal din. What's going on here? What's the perspective of DOF dito sa issue ng speed at pace ng Chinese infrastructure projects coming in? Because private capital is coming in very fast. Kitang-kita natin sa online casino, sa real estate. But dito sa big-ticket infrastructure project, parang medyo mabagal pa siya.
Well, Richard, I don't know all the details. Pero ito yung alam ko.
Impression.
From the DOF perspective, ito rin yung alam natin. Ang Japanese ODA, matagal nang ginagawa. We know how to work together with the Japanese agencies such as JICA and other agencies. And meron na talagang processes. We know what to expect from each other. Ang Chinese ODA, bago lang yan dito sa Pilipinas. Sa ibang bansa, maaring marami silang experiences na mabilis. Pero may pagka-stricto kasi tayo pagdating sa borrowing natin. So we have to make sure that the economic internal rate of return is at a minimum level or dapat higher pa. We are also a little stricter in terms of the process of review.
So
of
medyo
all of these
uncharted
projects.
territory tayo. So,
I think
adjust pang
actually,
China.
we're a stricter borrower yata than
Than
most
other
of the
ASEAN.
borrowers.
And that's slowing down. So it's prudence of the Philippines. that is
Siguro,
slowing.
hindi lang sanay yung lender na ganun kaingat yung borrower.
Yes.
Tapos tayo naman, we're also learning how to work with our counterparts.
Yes.
No? So, again, in
So
in
growth
contrast.
pains ito. Parang kumaga,
Mare.
may learning curve ito, no? I mean, we're in the initial stages.
But it's worth it, di ba? We
Yeah.
want to make sure that the agreements that we go into are prudent and they protect the national interest. Now, yung sa Japan naman, because of decades of experience of borrowing
Mas
from...
smooth, seamless yung
Yes.
process. So, Asec Lambino, to wrap up this discussion, of course, mamaya, si Pangulong Duterte magkakaroon ng pang-apat na SONA niya. And this will be his legacy years na. No? So the past 3 years was really establishing yung kanyang political will and agenda. But in the last 3 years, what should we expect from the Duterte administration in terms of dealing with the unemployment and poverty issue, in terms of the next trenches ng tax reforms natin? Should we look forward to a more prosperous the Philippines? In fact, pinag-usapan natin yung posibilidad that the Philippines will finally become an upper middle income country na kasama ng Thailand and Malaysia as the more developed countries of the ASEAN. What should we look forward to? Is it a bright future? Should we put our shades on toward that future?
Well, the prospects are certainly bright, Richard. On the economic front,
Yes.
we are happy to report, as we did on July 1 during
Yes.
the pre-SONA of the
Correct.
economic development and infrastructure clusters,
Correct.
that the economic picture of the country is very bright, and the prospects are also within reach, no? The positive prospects. So what does that mean? That means not only will we attain upper middle income country status, if not next year, then soon thereafter. No? Kala natin actually this year.
This year, yes,
Oo,
sir.
pero nag-adjust ng threshold ang World Bank. So,
So,
it looks
iniba
like
nila yung definition, umakyat, so kailangan natin humabol na konti.
habol tayo ng konti. But we're also still very close.
Within the range, yeah.
Yes, and as you said, no, Thailand and Malaysia are already at upper middle income country status. We want to get there from lower middle income country status. But what does that mean? It means to continue the poverty reduction
Correct.
agenda. Dahil yan ang pinakamahalaga naman talaga, di ba?
Inclusive development.
Mabawasan ang kahirapan sa Pilipinas. At nakikita naman natin sa official data, if you compare the first half of 2015 to the first half of 2018, yun kasi yung meron tayong comparison sa ngayon, bumaba ang poverty rate from above 27% to 21%. So,
Are we using the same definition of poverty?
well, that's the official PSA one.
yeah.
The second definition that I'd like also to highlight is the one of SWS, no? Yung self-rated poverty. At bumaba rin yan from a record low few years back of 42%, first quarter of 2019, nasa 38% tayo. So again, no, we want to continue the trajectory of
Positive trajectory.
yes, of our poverty fighting
And yung tax reform,
aspects.
yung mga next trenches ng tax
Yes,
reform.
so part of getting to that upper middle income country status, and that just represents really a better life, no, for Filipino families, is one, passing the rest of the tax reform program. That's part of how we get there. That means making sure that the burden and the contributions that are made toward national development are shared more evenly. What does that mean specifically? There are 4 more packages and 3 that have been passed. Reduced personal income taxes for 99% of income taxpayers, increased excise taxes on sweetened beverages and cigarettes, reducing, hopefully over time, unhealthy habits. But those who insist on consuming them should contribute more to our healthcare costs. No? As a country, we increased excise taxes on petroleum products. More than 50% of these products are consumed at the household level by the top 10%. No? So, talagang in terms of consumption, ay yung mas mayayaman ang mas nagkukonsumo ng mas marami.
At mukhang, Tony, no, pinag-usapan natin
Yes.
yan a while ago is yung mga politiko na sumuporta, the leading legislative figures na sumuporta dito sa tax reform, they did pretty well in the last
They
election.
did,
no?
they did.
Hindi
Mataas
naman-
ang ranking nila.
Exactly.
The chair of the Ways and Means Committee, Senator
Sonny
Sonny
Angara.
Angara, did very well in the recent elections. No, so yung sinasabi nila noon na si Senator Recto, who did the country
Huge service.
a huge service by championing the increase in the VAT,
yeah.
no, from 10 to 12%. He was punished by the electorate back then, or so they say. No, yan yung myth. Pero ngayon, na-break yung myth na yun dahil yung mga sumuporta sa train,
Did
at saka
well.
yung, yes, did very well. Nandyan din po yung ating increase in tobacco excise, no? Package 2 plus.
So you think the Filipino people are appreciating the wisdom, although may pain in the meantime, that in the long run, ito ay nakakabuti para sa ating bansa?
I think kita nila yung pera na pumupunta sa public investment. If you go around the country, you will see a lot of infrastructure
Lalo
projects.
sa mga probinsya, which was not the case before. So yung peripheral areas ng Pilipinas, nagbo-boom in terms of infrastructure.
Itong build, it's not just kasi the 75 flagship projects, the ports and the rail systems and the subway. It's also the thousands, tens of thousands of, well, I think between 10 to 20,000, no, little infrastructure projects that are improving the travel, the commute of our fellow Filipinos from their homes to their places of work, galing sa bahay papunta sa paaralan, from their farms to the marketplaces, from the small and medium enterprise shop that they have to the little mall in the city, no, or in the town. So
May upward
nararamdaman,
mobility,
nararamdaman talaga yung infrastructure build up. Pati recently, as you know, napirmahan na yung Universal Healthcare Law. But now that the IRR is being finalized, no, mararamdaman din natin yan, no? Every Filipino will have primary care or access to primary care. Every Filipino will be covered for both outpatient and inpatient services. So we will have a healthier workforce. People will feel that. And for the country, it will make sure that we really capitalize on our demographic dividend. Over the next 30 years, the largest proportion of our population will be working age. We have to make sure we capture the opportunity from
Yung
that.
demographic dividend dito.
Yes, we have to be ready for that, and we have to take advantage of that to propel our development story even further. Ngayon, ano pa kailangan gawin? So, alcohol, tobacco was passed, kailangan sundan ng alcohol to close the funding gap for universal healthcare. We also have valuation reform for real estate and real property. Kasi ang
So, aakyat yung tax for the
not
real estate.
necessarily. What we want to do is to standardize valuation. Why? Kasi may mga 20 ahensya and private assessors added to the mix na nagsasabi kung magkano ba talaga ang value nitong lupa na ito o itong real property na ito. Kaya nangyayari, nagkaka-right of way issues tayo na matindi. They last decades in court.
Kasi hindi clear yung valuation
Correct.
ng bibili ng land ng gobyerno.
Yes.
Right?
Plus, for the small landowner, madali silang lokohin pag pakita sa kanila, oh, ito yung value niyan. Eh, yun pala, hindi pa na-adjust ng matagal.
Yeah,
no?
10
So,
to 15 years.
dapat hindi maloko yung ating mga kababayan pagdating sa
So, i-update
pagbenta.
natin yung proper valuation
Correct.
at standardize natin yan.
Standardize natin yan. The local governments will retain the mandate to set the tax rate. So kahit tumaas yung valuation, the LGU can say, baba natin yung tax rate para pareho pa rin yung bayaran ng ating mga residente, no, or property owners. We also are going to push for the Trabaho Bill, lower corporate income taxes for 99.7% of businesses in the Philippines, from 30% corporate income tax, the highest in the region, to 20%. We also want to modernize our fiscal incentive system. Yung mga special treatment for investors should be given, but should be given for the right reasons.
So maraming loopholes, no?
Yes, we wanna make, and it's forever in the Philippines. Dito lang ang may forever
so
incentives.
hindi siya incentive dahil forever siya, di ba?
Well, compared to other countries, tayo lang yun. No? So what we wanna do is make sure that if they say they will create 10,000 jobs, then they should create 10,000 jobs. Then they will deserve the incentive, di ba? If they bring research and technology to the country that would otherwise not have come here, that's another reason to give incentives. If the investor will bring economic activity to the countryside where it's most needed and not the hundreds of special economic zones in Metro Manila where the incentives are not needed, no? Then
streamlining incentive system
and making sure we give them for the right reasons. So that's another package that we're championing, and that a number of legislators have already said they will champion as well. So we'll work in partnership with them. So the last one is passive income and capital income taxation. Masyadong magulo. There are 80 types of taxes when it comes to investments, deposit accounts, etc. We want to streamline that, bring it down to half the number. Medyo marami pa rin.
Kasi nangyari yung problema sa collection and tax evasion, right? Dahil hindi standardized, napakagulo, outdated yung fiscal regulatory system natin.
Yes, plus ang ating mga investors ay hindi risk and reward yung basihan nung pag-invest. Nangyayari, ano ba yung pinakamaganda yung tax rate, di ba?
Yeah.
So dapat kasi it's based on the risk and reward calculus of a particular financial instrument. Dapat magtataya ka doon dahil sa tingin mo okay yung chances na kikita ka ng ganitong amount, di ba? From keeping your money there. Another thing about capital income tax reform is it's unfair at this point. The way things are. If you keep your money in the bank for 5 years or longer without touching it, your tax on interest income is 0%. If you have to move your money around kasi magbabayad ka ng tuition, may mga expenses ka sa bahay, etc. Oo. Ang tax sa interest income ay 20%. So, sino ba ang nakaka-afford na hindi galawin ang kanilang pera ng 5 taon? Di yung mga mas may kaya, di ba? So, it's unfair. Now, 20% ang binabayaran ng mga small savers, 0% ang binabayaran ng mga long-time savers na malalaki yung accounts. No? So, those are the things we want to adjust. Second, tax reform. No? We want to complete the tax reform program and make sure that it's really a comprehensive tax reform program that will even the playing field. Pangalawa, gusto natin na mag-adjust at mag-reform ng ilang mga areas na manghihikayat pa ng ibang investment. No? So, the Retail Trade Act needs to be reformed and amended. The Public Service Act and the Foreign Investment Negative List. No? Kailangan din iksian pa, lalo. We want to make sure our agricultural productivity improves. Kasi the contribution of agriculture to GDP growth was very small. No? At mas mataas pa ang population growth kaysa sa growth ng agriculture sector. Pag mas mabilis ang paglaki ng populasyon kaysa sa paglaki ng ating agrikultura, mas mahal ang pagkain. Exactly.
Thank you very much, Asec Lambino. Marami pa tayong pwedeng pag-usapan.
Marami pa.
But thank you so much for that very thorough, the concise and crisp discussion ng mga major economic issues under President Duterte. So, ang pansin ko dito is your argument is nararamdaman ng taong bayan yung asenso, no? And you're gonna have more of it in the coming years.
Patuloy na maramdaman at mas maramdaman pa.
Maraming salamat, Asec Lambino. It's a pleasure always talking to you. Thank you.